And so hopefully you can see Umag in the background. Had a very uncomfortable night last night. The anchorage is completely open to the west, and at probably about 11 p.m. a very, very strong westerly kicked in. Not very strong, probably about 15 knots. And so the boat was bouncing all over the shore all night. The anchor held well. In fact, I dived on the anchor today, and it looked like we didn't even use the anchor. It looks like the chain held everything. The anchor hadn't moved from where it was when I set it previously. I suppose that's a good sign. Umag in the background. It's a nice enough city. If you're going to stop somewhere, you might as well stop in Umag if you check in from Italy. And that's where I'm headed right now. I'm actually headed back to Maggia today. It's about 20 miles, so I suspect it'll take probably about 5 hours, unless I get a favourable wind. At the moment I've got a headwind, so let's see if things change, and maybe I can even put up the sails, although I haven't prepared them yet. So 11 to 12 knots directly on the nose, 930 watts on each motor. I'm burning through battery, but that's because I just want to get around this corner where the wind will be from the side. Might be able to even get up sails over there. Bumpy sea. I think the waves aren't huge, but they're uncomfortable. There was a lot of seagrass which was getting caught in the props, so it's just a corner I've got to get around, and then things should smooth out quite a lot. You can see the top tip of Istria in the distance over there, and once I get there I turn right and things should be significantly better. So the wind is now, we've turned the corner, and the sea state is significantly improved. As you can see, it's a much better sea. We're not bouncing around all over the show. And because we've turned right slightly, the wind is coming from about 50 degrees off my port side, which means that I could sail, but there's a catch. At the moment, the wind is doing about 5 knots, and if I put the sail out, it's going to push into that direction, and that's going to block about half of my solar panels. And I'm doing 4 knots at the moment, and so with sails I probably wouldn't be doing 4 knots. With motor sailing I probably still wouldn't be doing 4 knots, I'm actually doing 4.2 knots. I've got 1,600 watts going into the motors and 1,800 watts of solar coming into the boat. So I'm charging my batteries at the moment, and it's a toss-up now between, is it windy enough? Is it windy enough to sail, to motor sail, faster than I'm currently motoring? And in this case, I don't think that's the case. So it's one of the things you don't think about when you're switching to a solar-powered boat, is that sometimes it's actually more efficient not to put the sails out than it is to put them out. You actually go faster, still without burning any fuel. Okay, so the wind strengthened to 9 knots, and I decided to get the sails up. So at the moment we are sailing in 9 knots of wind, and we're doing about 4.5 knots of speed, so about half wind speed. There's definitely something wrong though, because my telltales on the top deck tends to be going backwards, so I'm not sure which way I need to adjust. I'm going to go and do a quick bit of checking and see if I can squeeze out a little bit more speed. I'm not using the motors at the moment. I'm just letting the props spin, and once the batteries are full, then I'll start the motors again. What a nice day of sailing, my second time. Right, the wind is dying down quite a lot. I think I've got about 4 or 5 knots coming from the back quarter over there. But I'm doing what this boat does very well, which is motor sailing. So I'll show you, the sails are up. Hopefully I've got them out wide enough. But I've also got about a kilowatt on the motors. Yeah, a kilowatt on the motors. And because of that I'm doing about 4 knots. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. But I'm doing 4 knots on 1 kilowatt, which I wouldn't normally be doing. And I'm charging my batteries at about another 500 watts. So even though I've got some shading coming in from the solar, from the sails, I'm still going faster than I would be without the sails. and I'm charging at the moment, so it's working. I think it's going to be one of the things this boat does really well is motor sail. The nice thing is it's a nice quiet motor sail. And I'm back on the motor power again. Took a lot of power going into the motors. I'm doing about 4.3, 4.4, 4.6 knots, about 4.5 knots mostly. And the wind has completely died, which is why I've gone back to motor power. In the distance we've got Lazaretto. I'm probably going to come and spend the night over there. But first I'm going to stop at Maggia to do my Amazon pickup. It hasn't been a bad day. It started off very rough and then it got much smoother. And hopefully it'll stay that way for the rest of the day. And here I am, all the way in Maggia. It was an interesting solo sail. I did just over 70 nautical miles, or over 130 kilometers to get from the southern tip of Istria all the way back to Maggia, and I did it over 3 days, so pretty much 23, 24 nautical miles a day. Boat did very, very well. I have a lot of things that I can improve on doing. I must get checklists for leaving and coming back. I anchored in a spot where the anchor got moved and got stuck under some rocks and a big concrete slab. Fortunately it was clear water, so I could see my way out of that one. And then last night was a horrendous night with a westerly coming into the bay I was staying in, and it was bouncing around for hours and hours and hours. Not much I could have done there because there wasn't anywhere protected from the westerly, but yeah, made it fine. Got the sails up twice. The first time was an actual sail, where I had the wind coming from quite close to the nose, about 45 degrees, and I was doing about 4.5 to 5 knots in 12, 13 knots. When I added the motor to that one, I was doing 5.5 to 6 knots, which is quite nice. And then today we had a very light wind on from the side. I think I was doing probably about 4 knots in 9 or 10 knots. I must be a terrible sailor. On the side, and then I added a bit of motor to that as well when the wind died, to keep my speed above 4 knots for the rest of the trip. I could have made it without using the sails at all. The batteries are full pretty much all the time. It's only in the morning sessions when I leave before the batteries actually get to fill up that they're ever below sort of 80%. The rest of the time they're pretty much topped off all the time. And I could have actually gone further most days as well, because I've been getting to my destination sort of at about between 1, 2 and 2:30ish or so, and there's still a lot of sunlight left to absorb. So I've been heating the water every night and cooking with electricity and things like that. But if I was going all out for motoring, I could probably, I think, do somewhere between 30 and 50 miles a day, so maybe call it 40 nautical miles a day, with the solar keeping up with my consumption. And I'm leaving Italy again. The Amazon run was unsuccessful. Even though it showed the item was delivered 2 days ago, nothing has arrived. I have to get back to Pula because Candice's flight is arriving back in Pula. There's a potential thunderstorm, so I must be back in Pula on Sunday so that I can get somewhere safe. There's a very nice mooring ball field that's surrounded on basically 4 sides by hills, so it should be a very, very safe spot to be in case of thunderstorms. So that's what I'm doing today. Leaving Maggia and heading probably for Lavoratica, I think it is again. And at the moment there is no wind, so it will be a motoring day again. Going past Pula yet again. It looks like a fantastic place. I really do need to get up there at some point, but plans have changed for the day, and there's definitely no stopping involved anywhere or anytime today until I get to my destination. And that's because the thunderstorms that were going to be arriving on Sunday night are now arriving on Sunday morning, and I was planning to spend to get to Pula mooring balls by Sunday afternoon, and because the storms are arriving early, I need to rush. I need to get there sooner. So instead of doing the trip from Maggia or Trieste all the way down to Pula in 3 relaxed, easy days, I now have to do it in 2 days, and today I started late. Started moving at about just after 1:30, closer to 2 o'clock, which means that it's going to be a very long day. I think I'll only get to my destination at about 8, which is more or less, not quite halfway, but more or less halfway to Pula. It is a very big open anchorage that I'm going for tonight, so it should be quite easy to get into. And then tomorrow I've got another marathon trip to get to those mooring balls in time, so a couple of very long days coming up. So I've got just 760 watts on the motors at the moment, and I'm doing 4 knots. I want to keep the 4 knots going to get to my destination by 8 o'clock. But the sun disappeared. There's a lot of cloud cover pretty much everywhere. So I'm not getting a lot of charge in. So what I've done, because I've got a slight crosswind, is I put up my foresail because it's not shading any panels, and that's what's given me the extra speed. I only got about 6 or 7 knots of wind going from the side, but the foresail in combination with the motors is maintaining 4 knots. So that's pretty good. What it means is that even though I've got 750 watts going to the motors, I'm still charging at about 250, 300 watts, which I'll be able to use later when the sun goes up. Well, it looks like I should put the sails up sooner because I'm sailing at 4 knots now without any motor anchors, and that means that my batteries are charging and they'll be full quite soon, which is a good thing for tomorrow, because that means I can use more power tomorrow if I need to. So I'm going to show you the sails quickly. There we go. I'm hoping it's trimmed okay, but I'm still learning these things. The boat sails are up. The wind is coming from about 70 degrees from the front, so maybe about that direction. And because the wind is at such a good direction now, I've got pretty much no shading on most of my panels. I think one of my panels will have a bit of shade. But yeah, we're a sailboat again. Yeah, there you can see the way the wind is facing. Sun still behind the clouds, unfortunately. But I am charging the battery now at about 800 or 900 watts. So hopefully soon I'll have a full battery. Still solo, just me and the dogs for the next few more days. But only one more day moving around and then Candace is back. And some more good news. The clouds have almost cleared, not perfectly, but they're virtually cleared. And that means I'm charging now at about 2 kilowatts. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which means I've put a bit more power on the motors. I've got about 800 watts going into the motors, so I'm still charging at like a kilowatt and a bit, and we're flying along very nicely now. We're at 4.7, 4.8 knots, which is a very good speed for me. The wind is coming almost directly from the right at about 7 knots. So that, in combination with the electric motors for our motor sail, is doing very nicely indeed. Going past Umag again, I've got about 15 miles to go, so probably about 4 hours at this speed. At the moment I'm charging my batteries at 1 kilowatt, so I've only got 200 watts into each motor, or 400 watts going to the motor. So I'm pulling in about 1500 watts of solar, and I see there's a sailboat going the same direction as me, and if anyone has ever sailed before, anytime 2 boats are going vaguely in the same direction, 2 sailboats, it means you're in a race. Now I suspect they are just sailing while I'm motor sailing, so it's not a fair race, but I'm not burning fossil fuel, so I'm going to count it as a potential success on my side. I'm using sun and wind to sail. And I'm losing the race, and I'm not sure why. I'm going to figure things out. I'm obviously doing something that's not perfect, so I'm having a look at his sails, seeing how they set up. It might also just be a fast boat. I've reduced my engine, so I'm basically just sailing now. I'm not motor sailing anymore. But why is he going faster than me? Can't tell. And the good news keeps on coming. My batteries are already full, so I've increased the power now to suck up the solar, so I've got about 600 watts going to each motor, and because of that I'm doing about 5 knots now. Hopefully I can go and reel in that sailboat that overtook me now. As you can see, the wind is dying. It's 4 to 5 knots now, and because of that I am mostly motoring rather than sailing, so a kilowatt going into the motors. I'm still doing 4.5 knots or so, which is good, because if a sailboat can do 4 knots and 4 knots of wind, it's pretty impressive. And still a long way to go. I got waked just now by a giant motorboat that was flying along. This one seems to be going much slower, so hopefully there's not going to be another big wake, because it knocked over all sorts of things in the cockpit, and it shook the boom on my mast massively. So I didn't enjoy that. But this one is going at much better speed. Okay, well, we made it. It was probably my longest trip. I think it must have been about 32 or so nautical miles. Wasn't without any mishaps, if you have a look in the background. And I will tell you what the mishap was and how I dealt with it another time. For now, these guys haven't had a walk since probably 8 AM this morning. Do you want to go, boys? Who wants to go? Going between a bunch of islands now. Another one out there. Quite a few more there. This country does have a lot of islands. And then I think what is a very big campsite. Looks like they've got some very nice glamping tents with amazing views. I happen to be the amazing view. So I am actually really impressed with the solar and the electric and all that. Because I'm trying to conserve battery today to make sure I can be fully charged, I'm in low power mode. So I'm doing 2.8 knots more or less on 500 watts of power. And I'm still charging the battery bank by 200 watts, which is fantastic, especially considering it's only 20 past 9 in the morning. And the same power level now, 500 watts, and I'm doing 3.2 knots, so 6 kilometers an hour. It's incredible that I'm only burning 500 watts of energy. It's quite something. Going past Versailles again. The sun has made an appearance. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm pulling in 1.4 kilowatts of solar, which means I'm charging at about 900 watts at the moment, and that'll be really good for my batteries. So a tiny little island here. It looks like the kayakers are enjoying it. It's called Galapagos. I'm not sure what the one in the distance is called, but that one looks a lot more hospitable with a few trees on it. Got some dolphins up ahead. Hopefully I can catch them on camera. Come on, you guys, show yourselves. There they are. There you guys. Nice to see you. Sorry about the shaky footage. There you are. That's coming my way. I have to adjust course. Oh, there's more. There's a lot more. Oh, that was nice. Completely overcast and windy as I go past Rovni. In fact, it looks like it's almost a little bit foggy. So I'm maintaining my power level, 600 watts going into the motor, but I'm only charging at 200 watts at the moment. So I've still got a way to go, I think, before I've got a full battery pack. It would be smooth seas without all the big motorboats creating monster wakes. really unpleasant. Very large yacht going to go and dock in Robany, it looks like. See, they've got the guys ready with fenders, very big fenders, towing their quite impressive dinghy behind them as well. Finally a little bit of wind came out, so I put the sails up. I'm doing 4 knots into 8 knots of wind, which is coming kind of from 50 or 60 degrees on the right hand side, starboard side, and I've got 200 watts going into each motor and the sun is out, so hopefully I'll have full battery soon and then I can increase the power. But I am finally making good time, because I was a little bit slow this morning with the lack of battery. Finally over 5 knots. It doesn't happen too often. I'm putting 400 watts into the motors, but to be honest it's mostly the wind, I think, which is quite nice. So hopefully that gets me to my destination faster. At 5 knots, 16 kilometers, we'll be going just over 3 hours. And it's now 22 o'clock and my solar panels have finally filled up the battery, so I must have drained a good couple of kilowatt hours last night getting into that marina after dark. But that's meant I've got the ability to increase the power, so I'm now putting 1.4 kilowatts into the motors and maintaining the battery at that level, and I'm doing 5.5 knots, which is lovely. Getting overtaken by another sailboat. I do hear actually the hum of an engine, and I can't see any other boats that would be coming from. No other boats are close enough, so I think they're also motor sailing like I am. They're not going much faster than me, but I'm sure they're putting in more power than I am. Very nice day of sailing, and I'm doing 5.5 knots at the moment. This morning when I was doing sort of half that, I was doing 5 kilometers an hour, so basically a brisk walk, but now I'm doing 10 kilometers an hour, which is basically my jogging speed, and it's pretty cool. I do have the motors going, so I'm not sailing very well. What is the wind speed? There's only 6 knots of wind, so it's the combination of sails and motor that is giving me this speed boost, and I do think it's absolutely a perfect thing to do. I mean, you're using, sorry, radio making a noise. You're using the whole system, so the wind is helping pull me forward and the sun is helping drive me forward. So as a whole system, this is working very nicely, and I'm having a nice day. Alright, I've taken the sails down, the wind pretty much completely died out, and I'm motoring. I've got 1,000 watts on each motor, 2,000 watts going into the motors, and I'm doing about 4.5 knots, draining the battery at about 500 watts. My destination is just up front there. There's a little gap after the white building on the right hand side, and I have to turn in. But I'm going to be catching a mooring ball on my own for the first time, and I'm going to be trying a new technique, or something that I've read about a little while ago. And I've got this nylon line over here, which is tied to the cleat at the back, and it's tied to the cleat in the middle, and it's quite a big loop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and launch this loop over the mooring ball, and it should hopefully sink down on the other side. And then I'll loosen it at the back and I'll walk it all the way to the front cleat, and what that should do is it should take the line and twist it around the mooring ball like that, and hopefully hold it for long enough that I can get one of my other 2 lines through the loop on the top of the mooring ball and have it hooked. Let's see how this goes. And I've made it. I've taken a walk. It's a busy day in the anchorage up ahead, and a fairly busy day in the mooring fields as well. Just to the right, you can see Electra sticking out over there, just to the right of those plants. Let's see if I can try and get a better shot. In the next video we find some of the cleanest water we've seen yet, and finally leave Istria for the islands where we do our longest open water crossing. Thanks for watching.